Hey, what's up, everyone? This is your boy MugenLord here, and today we really need to talk about something that's been stirring a lot of confusion and debate, which is Nintendo Switch 2 game cards. Now, if you don't know what these are, buckle up because we're going to really get into something really interesting. So, what are game cards? Let's break it down real simple. So, essentially, game key cards are physical cartridges, but with no actual game data on them. Instead, they contain a permission key that verifies your purchases and gives you access to download the full game from Nintendo servers. So basically, it's a digital game in physical form. It's not a code in a box like we've seen before, but a cartridge that acts as an online verification key. You only need to connect online once just to verify ownership. After that, it's playable offline, and unlike traditional digital games, you can trade these cards, sell them, or let friends borrow them. Sounds fair, or so what's the problem here? Well, technically the issue isn't the tech itself, it's the marketing. Nintendo has done a horrible job explaining how these game key cards work, and it's causing confusion across the community. Many people thought they were getting the actual physical copies of the games, only discovered that there's nothing stored on the cartridge itself. For a long time, Nintendo fans, especially physical collectors, that's a huge letdown. The Switch 1 was praised for being a collector's dream. You could own your favorite games physically, but the Switch 2, not so much. So, why are third-party games using game key cards? Because we have seen an article that's been going around that Nintendo and its third-party developers have pretty much haven't been seeing success that they were hoping for when it comes to Nintendo Switch 2 launch releases. And we're going to get into a little bit more details about this, but let's continue on. This mostly comes down to money and Nintendo's cartridge policies. See, Nintendo manufactured the cartridges for the Nintendo Switch 2 and also the Nintendo Switch 1, and developers have to go through them to use physical cards. So here's where it gets tricky. Now, with the original Nintendo Switch, you had 1GB cards, 2GB cards, 4GB cards, 8GB cards, 16GB cards, and then you had the 32GB cartridges. But here's the problem. See, Switch 1, if the developers wanted to put their games on any of these cartridges, whatever the file size of their game was, they best fit the cartridge that best suit the size of their game. Now, depending on the size of the cartridge also increases the price. Now, here's the thing about cartridges and CDs. See, cartridges read much faster than discs, but discs are much cheaper. Cartridges are much more expensive. So depending on the size, it gets much more expensive. So the problem with the Nintendo Switch 2, Nintendo's only offering two sizes for physical cartridges, which is the 1GB and the 32GB, and that's it. There's nothing in between. No 4GB, no 8GB, no 16GB like on the original Switch. So if your game is, let's say, 6GB, you can't pick a cheap, appropriately sized cartridge. Your only option is the 32-bit cart, which is way more expensive. Naturally, developers don't want to eat that cost, especially for re-releases or smaller games like Bravely Default. So what do? They opt for the game key cards, instead saving money, but at the cost of frustrating gamers. But then we have examples of third-party developers like CD Projekt Red, which did something right. And let's talk about this rare exception here. See, you have CD Projekt Red, they loaded Cyberpunk 2077 plus all their DLC onto a 32GB cartridge. No downloads required. And guess what? It paid off. CD Projekt Red with Cyberpunk 2077 is now the best-selling third-party game on its Switch 2 as of this recording. That's proof right there that gamers value physical ownership. This is something Nintendo and other developers need to pay close attention to. Now, the fallout, and we want to talk about the poor sales of the third parties right now, or this is only a report that we're hearing. We haven't gotten any solid evidence or proof just yet, but this is what's been going around from many outlets right now. So we already seeing low sale numbers for most third-party games, which being told right now. And if you dig a little bit deeper, if you notice the pattern here, a lot of them are, yup, you guessed it, game key cards. Gamers are avoiding them. People want their games preserved. They want to install, lend, resell, and collect them like they always have. These game key cards feel like a half step towards a fully digital only future, and not everyone is willing and ready to accept that. Now, I will also say this, this is not the only example or The only reasons why people are not grabbing these third-party games is for the simple fact too, we have other options out there. I mean, Nintendo Switch 2 is fully backwards compatible, and since it's fully backwards compatible, a player like me who owns the Nintendo Switch 2, I have a huge backlog of Nintendo Switch 1 games. You gotta look at the current economy right now, the prices of games, and people have to pick and choose which games that they really want to play and pick up. I already have people within my inner social circle and many other people who already said that Mario Kart is enough for now into Donkey Kong Bonanza. Some gamers only got a Nintendo Switch 2 just to play Nintendo games rather than third-party games. It's a mixture of everything, but it's not just the key cards, and I just also want to make you aware of that. And I have a huge backlog of Nintendo Switch 1 games, so I have no reason to really go out and grab any of these current third-party games that are out there, or games in general, where I just pick up a first-party game from Nintendo and just still continue on to my backlog. Now that I'm discovering that quite a few of my backlog games have also received some performance boosts in their games as well, which gives me more reason to go back and actually go through this backlog and play some of these games. So what's next for Nintendo, and what should Nintendo actually do? So in my personal opinion, here's what I think. Nintendo needs to step up. They need to offer more cartridge sizes, the 4GB, 8GB, and the 16GB, like they did with the first Switch, because we already seen perfect examples of that. I believe it was Bravely Default and another third-party game. If you look at the Nintendo Switch 1 version of it, there's actually a full cartridge with the game on it for the Nintendo Switch 1, but there's a game key card for the Nintendo Switch 2 version of it. So it goes to show that the options are there for the Switch 1, but the options aren't there for the Switch 2. So I wouldn't say that it's just solely on the developers trying to make a quick buck or anything like that. I think it also has a lot to do with Nintendo really trying to force developers to spend money on a much more expensive card, and also they doing the 32GB cartridge only too, because they also trying to combat this piracy situation that's going on with unloading and dumping a bunch of games on specific cartridges and everything. So there's a whole lot of mess going on within this whole situation, but they definitely need to offer more options of cards. If they don't, they are risking alienating the collectors, the retro crowd, and even casual players who just don't want a licensed key sitting on a shelf. Key cards could have been a clever hybrid solution, but poor communications, limited cartridge options, and high expectations from the community have made it feel like a cheap workaround. Let me know what you think. Are you okay with this model? Do you still prefer physical games? And should Nintendo go back to offering more cartridge sizes? Sound off in the comment section. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe button, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives and discussions right here on this channel. This is MugenLord, signing off. I'll see you Game Fiends later. Peace out.